This week on The Modified World, I'm going to talk a little bit about plastics, silicone, and polymer clay, and what you should do with them. It's important stuff, so stay tuned. So after clicking around a little bit on the internet, I've noticed that a lot of my viewers are still unclear on what to do with plastics. I still see people stretching with them and putting them in fresh piercings and saying it's all right. Here's the thing, your body may react a little differently than other people's. Just because you did something and it didn't cause you a problem does not mean that it's okay. So let's clear up some confusion here. If you're wearing plastics and you experience redness of skin, irritation, weepiness, itchy eyes, things like that, then remove them immediately and put in some implant grade titanium or glass and then seek medical attention or some advice from your professional piercer. So let's talk a little bit about the jewelry. The first material I'm going to talk about is PTFE, polytetrafluoroethylene, sold under the trade name Teflon. It's a white plastic, has a very slick surface. It has the drag coefficient of wet ice on wet ice, and it's naturally self-lubricating. Surface finish is still important on it though. If they have rough spots, dull spots, things of that nature, it's still about like putting a rough piece of titanium in you. It can be machined, it can be drilled, tapped, manipulated in just about any of the ways that metal is. It can be worn long term, and it actually does have an ASTM standard for implantation. The next material we're going to talk about is acrylic. Standard old industrial grade acrylic. It looks kind of cool, almost like glass, but know the difference. It's not autoclavable, it scratches easily. It was popular in the 90s before we knew any better, but we know better now, so most people aren't really even stocking it or selling it or anything like that. When you wear it in contact with your body, since your body is 98 point something degrees on average, it raises the temperature of it and it starts to release toxic chemicals, including those known to cause cancer. So we just can't suggest it. Industrial acrylic is not to be confused with dental acrylic. It is a better option than industrial acrylic, but it's still something that I would only suggest for temporary wear only in a healed piercing, not for something for an initial piercing at all. That brings us on to Tygon. Tygon is a clear plastic medical grade tubing. Now, medical grade does not mean implant grade. It meets the ISO standards for medical devices, but it does not meet ASTM standards for medical implants. Another material you might come into contact with is Bioplast. Bioplast is the trade name of a polysulfone. I know it's marketed exclusively to the piercing industry, which automatically makes me suspicious. It has no ASTM certification for implants. It can be autoclaved. Reports vary on whether or not it should be used for an initial piercing or not. Me personally, I will say I would never use it for an initial piercing. I would use it for maybe a retainer if there was some sort of piercing that I couldn't get a fused quartz or Pyrex retainer for. Surface finish still matters with that though, so if you look at your Bioplast piece and it doesn't have a pretty smooth surface, then you probably don't want to wear it. Another plastic that you might actually run into is polycarbonate. Polycarbonate does not meet ASTM standards for medical implants. It does for devices though, as long as it's uncolored. You'll basically not see it very much except for a few retainers and a couple of brands of plugs. It's not common though. So that's going to bring me over to silicone. Silicone is probably the most accepted plastic substance that you will see in a piercing shop, in legitimate piercing shops. When I talk about silicone, I mean chaos software, genuine chaos software, not the knockoffs from God knows where. A real piece of chaos software will have a tiny K molded into the surface, not the wearing surface, but the decorative surface on the outside so that you can ascertain its genuine nature. Real chaos software is made in America out of materials that we know. The stuff from God knows where is made out of God knows what, and so I just can't suggest it. Now, a word of caution. Never, ever, ever stretch with silicone. Now, I know you're going to look around on the interwebs and you're going to find videos of some numbskull kid in his bedroom with a webcam stretching his ears with silicone. It doesn't make it a good idea, it makes it a terrible idea. It even says on the packaging not to do it to stretch. It's a terrible idea. I would be remiss without mentioning polymer clays, aka Fimo or Sculpey. These are terrible things. You should never, ever, ever wear any jewelry ever made out of polymer clays. They emit chlorine forever. Chlorine is toxic to all known forms of life. It kills things, like your ears. You haven't lived until you've seen rotting black necrotic tissue from being in contact with polymer clays on a long-term basis. Now, I don't care. You're going to say, oh, but I get my stuff from the people on Etsy who put it in the steel tunnels, so that's okay, right? No, it's still garbage. If you put Fimo clay into garbage steel eyelets, it's still chlorinated solvent emitting crap in garbage steel eyelets, and it's still no good. So my final assessment on plastics is, well, they have usage, but I don't feel that they should ever be used for a fresh piercing. Healed piercings only, and then never to stretch with. So that was our show this week. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope either you or your clients will learn something from it. We give away swag every week to engage subscribers, so if you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to, so that you A, never miss a video, and B, have a chance at getting some of that sweet swag. Leave me a comment in the section down below that lets me know that you're paying attention. Tell me, do you think I did a halfway decent job of explaining plastics and body jewelry? Like I said, let me know in the section down below. And hit me up on Tumblr, hit me up on Facebook, and Twitter, and Google Plus if you actually have one. And be sure to come by next week for another episode of The Modified World.